All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Morganite. Welcome to our very first podcast of the Bestiary, episode 1. We are talking about owlbears. With me today, you will be seeing or listening to Ben Fisher.
Is this how the internet works?
Jonathan Stark.
Are we off mute? We're off mute?
Kayvon Barami.
Hey, everybody.
And myself. So, okay, guys.
Okay, so to describe what this is this will be an audio podcast, but we're doing it live every show. So those who check in on Twitch will be able to see us, our beautiful, beautiful faces as we and some imagery as we go through our discussion. So as we said, today is Owlbears. Does anybody want to describe an owlbear? I can describe an owlbear.
Yeah, describe an owlbear. I feel like
okay.
101.
101. What's an owlbear? Well, it's an owl and a bear. So an owlbear is you picture the grizzly giant body of a bear mixed with
what type of bear?
Let's say
a grizzly.
Let's say a grizzly.
Yeah, grizzly body.
Yeah, it's
grizzly
a grizzly body of a grizzly bear.
Big brown.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking tiny sun bears here. This isn't Winnie the Pooh. This is
not always brown. There's Arctic owlbears.
Yeah, there's polar bears. There's a lot of colors.
Yeah,
it's a brown bear we're talking about. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Big brown bear, and now the head of an owl, and I have to stop there for a minute because the head is what has gone through the most transformations, I feel like, on this creature over the years. If you're talking early owlbear, you're talking a very strange, just beak with no neck. Very just kind of like some owl eyes, and it looks a very pained creature.
Let me back up a second. Is this a proportional head? Is this like just a tiny little owl head on a giant bear body?
Oh boy.
It's a giant head. So when you go back, though, it looks kind of like a Godzilla with a beak. Like
when it's early, it's just like a tiny head, though. It's like just face on neck. Yeah. Like as you get more advanced and as the art gets better, it actually becomes a full-on like owl's head. Like and then Kayvon's right. That is like a big old giant head on this bear's body and can do all the things that owl heads can do.
Are you suggesting like an owlbear expert could look at the drawing and based on the size of the owl head predict where in chronology of D&D?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
We should have a test.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good way of putting the size as the owlbear evolved over time. The head grew bigger and became more animate. It could turn 360 degrees. It was no longer just a beak coming out of a neck.
Wait, can its head really turn 360 degrees?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it a full 360?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's like a 280,
270, 280.
Well, if it turns
at full 360, come on.
Are we getting apocryphal 30 seconds into this podcast, or is this true?
Potentially.
It does actually have the same rotation as a normal owl's head.
Okay.
And which I believe is 280 degrees. Okay. It's close. Kayvon's he's gonna look it up.
Interesting. All right.
270, I was correct.
Yeah. 270?
270.
Oh, I was so close. Okay.
So sneaking up on an owlbear is tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Incredibly, they have the senses of an owl. As far as like hearing and vision.
Well, let's get into powers in a second. Hold on, let's not jump this.
I just
want to know what it looks like right now.
I have a question for you, Ben, actually, because we've talked about what the owlbear looks like now. We have kind of a basic.
I have a lot more questions about that, but okay.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
My first question for you is, why did you pick the owlbear?
Because it has the best name of any, other than maybe Gelatinous Cube. It's the best name in Dungeons & Dragons. And because it doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense, and I was very curious as to why in the world this thing shows up. Like, I get a dragon, I get a kobold, I even get the Gelatinous Cube, I guess. But I just don't think I understand why anybody was like, well, I mean, we got some owl parts and some bear parts, I guess Owlbear. So I'm just kind of curious as to how in the world this thing even wound up in the Monster Manual.
Well, there's two answers to that. Should I go ahead and do this?
Wait, two answers.
There's two answers.
Yeah, so there's the answer that's like the actual answer is Gary Gygax had a bag of toys and was just sort of creating monsters based on like these random Japanese these creepy little toys, and was just trying to figure out like, oh, what would this be in my Monster Manual? But then sort of like the in-game answer is wizards, magic. Yeah.
Well, to go a little further on what you said about the toys, they were originally Hong Kong made from the 1960s Ultraman show.
I'm going to stop you just real quick and just say, for purposes of the audience, are we just assuming every audience knows who Gary is here, or do we need to explain?
Oh, no, we should say that. Gary Gygax, for those who are not familiar with D&D, he is the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. Very much his brainchild. He had help in developing it, but it was very much his idea. He came up with it out of he basically had little toys, and he wanted to come up with rules to play with action figures in games. And that's the very, very, very early start of Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay. All right. So moving along. Sorry.
So these toys, as Kayvon said, they came from Hong Kong and were based on the 1960s Ultraman show. So the Owlbear one, for those who are not watching the Twitch, to describe this thing, it looks very much like if you've ever seen Power Rangers, it looks like the giant monsters, like somebody bumbling around in a giant costume with a very, very strange beak and big googly eyes.
Yeah. Now, how they came up with that original monster toy, I've absolutely no idea.
I actually tried to find out which monster it was based on from the show. I watched like about 3.5 episodes of the Ultraman show before I had to stop.
Yeah.
But it was... I could not figure it out. I went through a list of monsters. I think it was an amalgam.
And so it has bear arms and claws.
To be fair, it has nothing resembling any kind of living creature. But Gary Gygax looked at it and was like, bear owl.
It's standing on its two legs.
Does it have a tail?
Yes.
Yes,
it has a big tail. Furry bottom, feathery top. The original is like a feathery head, but as it evolves, it gets wings.
The head is no longer feathery.
No, the original had just a feathery head and like a big furry body, but now in like further iterations, it has feathers all over it.
Whoa, wait, no, time out. I'm all thrown sideways. The current version of the Owlbear.
Yes,
has feathers.
Has a full owl head, so fully feathered.
Yeah,
and then it has wings, like it has arms with
wings.
Feathers. It has feathers coming off.
No, it has no wings.
Well, some of them do.
Wings.
Some of them do.
I feel like we have already derailed this show, and we are.
No, there are flying owlbears. Like let's be clear.
Time out. We're going to get into flying owlbears in a second because that to me,
this is like
that
the
sounds like you're making up monsters.
Yeah. This is where the two branches differ.
It has arms, and the arms have feathers on them. It also can, not always optional, have wings.
So do you think these...
sometimes functional, sometimes not?
Well, I want to talk about the wings some more in a minute. But are you so the feathers, is this sort of like how now we say dinosaurs have feathers because scientists got rid of Pluto and gave us feathers on dinosaurs, and so now there's feathers on owlbears? Is that what's going on here? Because it didn't used to have feathers, right?
Yeah, well they made it look more like an owl and less like like they made it match the name.
So now it's just a giant owl with claws? I guess it has claws anyway.
No,
it's
a giant bear with an owl head.
But feathers.
And feathers.
So is it more owl or more bear?
Oh no! Now we're getting to the heart of the question.
Yeah. Is it more owl or is it more bear?
I actually, so this has some interesting answers because physically, this thing you would definitely say, looking at it, is more bear. Let me. For those on Twitch, I'll pull up another picture.
I want to see that. Okay, I want to see this. I think. Okay.
So for people,
this is not my owlbear. You show me my owlbear from the Monster Manual.
Yeah, this version is definitely more owl.
What is this monstrosity?
This is an artistic rendering. That's much more owl than bear.
Yeah. This is just.
Okay. Let's go back. We'll go back. That's
still not my owlbear. No, you go back.
This is the latest of the owlbears.
I want to see.
This is 5e.
Show me a DM's guide. Show me an original. Do I have to go get my original DM's guide and hold up a picture of an owlbear because this is not an owlbear?
I would say most people who are not Ben would agree that the bear part physically dominates. Yeah. It does not have wings. Let's be clear. Most owlbears do not have wings.
No, they do not have wings.
Terrifying creature.
It has claws, and it can kind of do that 2-footed stumble forward to maul you.
How tall are they? They're like a large creature, right?
They can get up to 8 to 10 feet.
8 to 10
8 to 10
yeah.
feet tall.
Big animal.
But inside is where the differences really start to get noted.
Before you get to the inside, I want to interrupt you one more time and say, while we've been sitting here talking, and then you two have been just obliterating the legacy of the Owlbear by talking about how it's all out. I would like to say when I just wikied Owlbear, and so that you can see this. Can you see this? This is the image that shows up. This is my Owlbear.
That's based off the toy. That's the original.
This is what an Owlbear is.
That's 1975 Owlbear.
For those who are listening,
that's super outdated.
This thing eats gelflings. It is adorable. It kind of just stumbles along. It couldn't kill a second level gnome. It's worthless. And what you're showing me is frighteningly terrifying. It's a completely different animal now. I wouldn't have picked something this scary.
The picture that Ben was holding up for those who are listening was a picture of the original Owlbear, which does pretty much look like a Muppet out of Dark Crystal. That's a good apt description.
All right.
But there's two questions that have gone unanswered, unless anybody else has anything to say real quick on what we've talked about so far.
What their origins are?
Yeah, the origins question and how are these bear or owl? The second piece to the origins question is the in-world origins of these creatures. And and I don't mean like how they were created in the world, although we can get to that. This is mostly what Gygax's justification was for putting them in to Dungeons and Dragons. That's raised a lot of discussion in the Dungeons and Dragons world, because I think one of the reasons that this creature is so iconic is the Owlbear is like a minotaur. It's like a bull and a man, or it's like a Medusa, a snake and a person, or a manticore or a griffin. All these amalgams of creatures, but it's one that fits in all that mythology. It seems to go right up in the ranks of those creatures, but it's not real. And so what it did
None of those creatures are
Wait,
real.
let's back up a second. I'm just making sure that you're real clear about
It's not
this.
real.
What I mean, well, wait a minute, what?
Do I need to show you a chick track about what happens when Blackleaf takes it all too seriously? This is
What I mean is it has no real legend behind it, like the Medusa does, or it's not out of our mythology.
Yeah, it's a modern myth.
It's a myth of this game world, and so people come into Dungeons and Dragons and they immediately know that this world has a history and it has its own myths and it has its own mythological creatures. It's not just drawing like most fantasy games and books did at the time. They drew purely on pre-existing creatures, the Greek monsters, biblical monsters, Tolkien's monsters, and this was for the first time like a new monster. And fantasy lovers ate it up. They were like, cool. Oh wait, this world will have new monsters in it.
Yeah.
Ben, you're
okay.
Ben,
That's the first interesting piece of information you've told me. I'm into it now. All right, let's keep this going.
If I may say so, Ben, you're by far the oldest of us.
Burn.
Did you what? I mean, by far. So for you were around when this came out. What was it? I mean, did that mirror?
Well, it was on parchment, and it was just delivered by
pigeons.
Raven.
Place. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We would. You remember, it's mail RPG. You would just write in what you're going to do and mail it to your friends.
And a year later, you did it.
That's right.
So, no, but really, I mean, did the Owlbear feature...
and it's interesting you say that, because I wasn't thinking about that when I was playing the game. And I was playing out of the red box, right? The legendary red box. And so for all fighting skeletons and trolls and orcs and all that kind of stuff, which was fun. But whenever you got to stuff like the Owlbear, it felt like, okay, I'm doing something original. I'm doing something new in a completely different than the stuff I've been reading or seeing on TV. And I guess that not really crossed my mind for why I felt that way about it. And maybe that's why it's one of those creatures that stuck with me for so long, and why I didn't, when you were asking me about what to do on the show, I didn't suggest a Medusa or a Griffin or something like that. It was the Owlbear, because it's just so specific just to D&D.
And the other question that came up that went unanswered was sort of this inside creature versus the outside. Is it more owl? Is it more owl than bear? Which I think should be.
Should we list some things like for owl?
Yeah.
It lays eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's
That's a big
definitely
one.
not a bear thing. No.
No,
okay.
and I've looked into the. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
No, I mean you can't just say. By the way, some of these things fly and they lay eggs and they move along. Kayvon,
They all
I
lay
feel
eggs.
like
They all
Kayvon is just
lay
doing drive-by fucking trivia, and I would like to double down on some of this a little bit. So okay, so this giant owlbear, which is clearly the size of a car, standing upright.
Yeah,
Some of them apparently can fly. I'm gonna get back to that in a minute for how the world that works.
Okay, wait a minute.
And they lay eggs.
Scholars disagree on the flying thing. There are rumors.
I've never seen a flying owlbear, but I've heard strong accounts that they exist.
Okay, all right. So maybe they can fly. But
I correct my colleague here.
So-
I'm going to hold him to this.
so owlbears, are owlbears gendered?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
They do mate, and they tend to
Let's
mate
talk
for
a little
life.
bit about that. How does that work?
Now, are we getting into cloacas?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm getting into.
I think they function like bears. I don't know.
I've never seen a cloaca I haven't gotten into, so let's talk about that.
You get into some tight corners.
How big would you say the average owlbear egg would be?
Okay, so the average, they're 2 feet in diameter.
The egg is 2 feet in diameter. That's not the size that I thought she was asking about, so I'm going to ask about the size that we all want to know.
So this I had to do. The only way I could figure this out was by going by the biological evidence. So we first of all, we know in real nature of a couple mammalian creatures that lay eggs.
Yeah.
You have the echidna,
platypus,
and the platypus, and a couple other groups of the echidna.
What's an echidna?
It's a very strange. It's like a D&D creature. I swear. Okay. Echidnas are weird. But isn't Knuckles an echidna from Sonic and Hedgehog?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they look like that and they punch things. So there.
Interesting.
So the eggs tell us a little bit about this. So a platypus does not have a cloaca. It has parts.
Yeah.
And is it the platypus that has the split penis?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
I'd tell you to do a Google search, but I'm afraid what you might find.
Let's see what I find.
So we know that they don't lay through like a bird, like a cloaca. However, this is kind of thrown off a little bit with the owlbear because we also know that platypus eggs are leathery. They're like lizard eggs. They have like a leathery skin on them, a membrane. Whereas owlbear eggs are pretty well described as being hard-shelled. Mm-hmm. And that
So why do you think the owlbear is a mammal?
So this only comes from a cloaca. So I'm pretty sure the owlbears, they mate like birds mate.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not a mammal.
The only. This again, we haven't decided as a bear or owl. We this is a question for the end of the podcast. I think we'll have to weigh our evidence.
So it lays eggs like a bird. How many eggs in a?
It's small. It's a small.
Yeah, it's like
Probably
I think
2 or
5 in a clutch.
5 is a lot of eggs.
I thought it was less. I thought it was like 1 or 2.
I can actually look. I'll look. For my information here, I'm going to go to the D&D second edition, which had by far the greatest
1 to 6 eggs.
1 to 6 eggs.
So all right, so a 6-sided die worth of eggs, and so the
let's just roll it.
Let's roll a die and find out what we got.
We're just going to answer this
If you were
right
an
here.
owlbear, how many eggs
This
would you
is
lay?
where's the 6 sided?
There we go.
Okay.
4.
4 eggs. Okay,
Yeah,
so
4
all
eggs,
owlbears lay 4 eggs. That's
Yeah,
canon.
yeah.
And what does the nest look like?
The nest, it's a good question. So the nest is like a bird's nest, a pile of fur and fluff that's been pushed together into like a pillow that the eggs rest on.
Yeah.
Fur and fluff, like from themselves,
From their environment.
From themselves, from
dead animals, whatever.
dead animals.
Yeah.
Another maybe at times from their pellets. So this is another thing in favor of the owl. The owlbear actually regurgitates pellets.
It eats everything whole and can't digest.
Mantling. It's called mantling, right?
Is that what that's called?
So
That sounds scientific. Let's go with that.
Let's go with mantling. It would be so much fun. I was just thinking it'd be so much fun to like investigate an owlbear burrow or like a nest and actually have to like after you slay it go through a bunch of these giant pellets. These pellets would be huge, like wrapped up dogs and
so
things like
I'm
that.
sorry. So the pellets, it feeds its young through these pellets?
No, it's like an owl. It regurgitates these pellets with like hair and bone
Got
or
it.
whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the nest.
Yeah,
I get
so you open it up and find like a coin purse.
They actually don't do a great. They're not like D&D's best parents. Owlbears pretty much they don't have milk. They don't produce milk. So another thing.
Do the eggs have to stay warm?
Oh yeah, they're definitely not mammals then.
If they don't produce, well, a platypus does produce milk.
Yeah, I think that's a mammal thing. Mammals make milk.
Yeah, mammals make milk. Yeah, that's true.
It's not a
So
bear.
we're starting to lean more toward owl.
Yeah, it's a giant owl.
Yeah, and now we know they're covered with feathers and can fly. So I mean, this is
right.
Now, wait a minute.
It's a giant flightless bird. It's evolved out of flight for the most part.
We have never actually seen the owlbear in flight. This is not something that's been proven.
Before we move away from mating questions, chat has asked a question that do owlbirds have mating rituals like birds?
Now,
owlbears? I want a whole chunk of this to be about owlbears doing it. Let's.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about mating rituals now.
Literally, bear titties has been mentioned on the Twitch, so this is we're into that now. This section of the podcast is called bear titties. So the question was, do they have mating rituals?
Yeah, like owls, where they try and or like other birds, the mating displays that the male puts on for the female.
Fluff up their feathers. And,
we can infer that they do, and the reason is because they share other things in common with animals that also have mating rituals. For instance, bears actually have mating rituals. And so do birds.
Don't like all animals have mating rituals?
I mean, most of them do, but there's an interesting, most animals that are territorial have mating rituals.
Are owlbears territorial?
Yeah, they are.
Extremely territorial.
Okay. What's their radius?
They mark, their radius is huge. They mark their areas by actually leaving marks in trees.
Okay.
They scratch trees
to
leave their mark.
That's more bear-like, yeah.
And that's towards the bear. Their range is it's over a mile. I know that. It's actually several miles, and I can find that out. While ask another question. I'll get that one in.
Chat asked that do the male owlbears have a musky smell? Do they musk like elephants?
Owlbears don't smell well. I can tell. They don't smell good.
They just constantly smell musky. All right.
Yeah, they don't smell good in general.
The reports are that their nests are a rank of dead animals, and that might just be the smell of the owlbear itself.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do they pair off? Are they monogamous?
They are monogamous. They share one mate. They share the mate for life. They continue to have clutches of eggs with that same mate. The eggs they only raise to a certain point. Once the young are able to hunt for themselves, they push them out of the nest.
So every time I've ever killed an owlbear in D&D, I have left a despondent, broken-hearted soulmate somewhere else in a nest. Is that what you're saying?
I assume you just kill the bachelors.
Okay. Or the babies.
Yeah, or just kill babies. Yeah. You're just a baby killer.
That's so much better.
Right. Okay. Will owlbears fight each other if they invade territory?
Owlbears can fight each other. Kayvon, what do you think an owlbear fight would look like?
It'd be epic. It'd be like a bear fight. It'd just be two animals raging against each other. Yeah, slashing and hugging and stretching and
they're not known for giving up.
No, they fight to the death. Like they're known to never give up in a battle. Like once they decide to attack, the attack is on until someone dies. Yeah.
So that would be a pretty brutal,
it'd be epic. Yeah.
Brutal cage fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that would be a nice set two owlbears together in like a coliseum or something like that.
I don't know if I like the way you think.
Yeah.
Kayvon just invented cockfighting.
Yeah, there we go.
So, does an owlbear have any natural predators?
I don't believe so.
Ben, because he kills the baby.
I know, right?
Yeah, potentially a dragon or something. Yeah, no, not really. Other than like humanoid creatures. No.
They are pretty much. I mean, when you compare other creatures that live in their domain, D&D is full of Dungeons and Dragons is full of monsters that kind of match each other in ferocity. And what seems to happen in the ecology of that world is rather than the monsters turn on each other, they claim bordering territories and kind of have this uneasy truce between each other. The one exception is, as Kayvon pointed out, are dragons. When dragons move into a territory, they will clear it out. Or sometimes if they're green dragons have been known to actually keep owlbears around.
Yes, wood elves apparently keep owlbears as well. They will, since they live up in
I
trees.
remember that. I think that's a carryover from like second edition.
Yeah, they make their homes up in the trees, and they'll encourage owlbears to nest below them as like security.
Well, that files into a question that we were just asked: that are owlbears considered apex predators?
Oh yes.
What is that?
No natural predators. Make an apex.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always
you're
forget
at the
what that
top of
means.
your local food chain.
Having never been the top of a food chain, John, you would.
That's why I'm really confused by it.
What is an apex?
I'm a convex predator.
Lay on your back and
Yeah, I lay on my back and I hope food falls into my mouth. I was just looking. I think I have our answer on the range. It changes because they will claim as much territory as they can. That's kind of an owlbear's thing. They will claim it, and like because they don't fly, they are limited. I'm just throwing that out there. They are limited in how far they can range, and they tend not to go beyond what they can range in a single hunting cycle. Now, a hunting cycle for an owlbear is a little odd. They are, because they're both what's it called? They're both nocturnal and diurnal.
Oh, diurnal, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like noon to midnight.
So they're very that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They're noon to midnight, as Kayvon said, and so they hunt animals active during the day, and then also hunt nocturnal animals.
Yeah. Can I by the way give my best recreation of the dialogue that would occur the first time an owlbear is seen flying? Can I give you that?
Yeah.
Please.
It goes like this. It's one wood elf turning to the other and going, "Oh shit."
Yeah, I agree.
That's good.
Was that the one you put at the base of your tree?
So I do have another question though. What is the lifespan of an owlbear?
20 years. Yeah. Easy one, Ben. Easy question. 20 years.
20 years?
They have 20 years average lifespan.
Interesting.
A lot shorter if Ben's in the area.
Yeah, is that what is I wonder what owl.
It's over 20 years.
Is it? Let's see. Owl lifespan, no, it's 4 years. God, Ben. Come on now.
Wait, it depends on the owl.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm talking about the immortal ones.
Yeah, no, giant pandas have 20 years. So
that's bear.
It's much more bear.
That's
so
a
their
bear.
lifespan is in the bear category.
Okay.
Determined.
All right, interesting. So how quickly do the young become independent, self-sufficient?
It doesn't take very long. It's within a year, the first year, the young are able to hunt.
That's closer to bear standards than owl.
Yeah,
Really? I would think owls are like...
No, owls
No,
kick you
birds
out
are
within
within
like
a
a couple
season.
months, don't they?
I think that I always picture owls as like emerging from the shell like wise already and like coming out and just killing a mouse
just-
immediately and being like, I'm ready.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as you can fly, which is pretty quickly, you're sort of
Yeah,
kicked out of the
it's
nest
a
with
few
birds.
weeks for most birds, and then they start to be on their own. Where bears and other mammals, it takes anywhere up to 2 years.
It says they're mammals.
That's interesting.
According to D&D,
they are warm-blooded
they are
mammals
officially
that lay
warm-blooded
eggs.
mammals.
Yeah, but they're not thinking through about the leg.
No,
Hey, I feel like you've done more scientific
I
thought
feel
about this.
We've done more research since.
Yeah.
I did find the exact territory. 1 to 2 square miles is the usual territory.
And what sort of terrain are we typically going to see an owlbear in?
Forests, labyrinths, temperate climates. They prefer temperate climes.
So no extremes then.
In D&D lore, and I'll go through all canon, including any of the novels, anything like that.
Okay.
Are there any known instances of domesticated, like full-on pets? Like were they actually like one will like friendly to each other?
Absolutely.
If so, I would like to hear the story.
No, you got this one, Kayvon.
No, I don't. So they sell the eggs for a fair amount. They're people. You can capture take the eggs and sell them in the market.
The wood elves.
Right.
The wizards.
All
The
right,
wizards
dark
want
elf
eggs.
of
People
dark
try to domesticate them and will have them as pets, often as cubs. But everything that I've read says that it basically, as soon as they become adults, they're pretty unruly, and there's not much you can do to hold them in. But as long as they're still small cubs, you can keep them as a pet.
Now I will add to that and say that if you've actually raised them from cub, they don't imprint. So you can't just raise it and have it love you. You have to basically you have to force it to submit. That's the only way to domesticate an owlbear. And it actually is done regularly. People do keep them as pets. Humans keeping them as pets is a lot harder than obviously monsters keeping them as pets. That happens more commonly. Like giants, very common for giants to have owlbears as guard. They use them like guard dogs.
Really?
Yeah. Giants will keep owlbears. But humans can and have domesticated them throughout history, but it's very difficult. You have to either bond with the creature, which is very, very hard for it to bond with an owlbear. They're not naturally given to that kind of empathy, or you have to actually force it with like abuse, really.
You have to nag an owlbear? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, God.
You have to say you look very bear.
Shame.
less owl, more bear.
Your head
You're
is
gaining
just
weight,
tiny.
So, out of curiosity, back to physiology, would you say that they have hollow bones like a bird or normal bones like a bear would?
As best I can tell, and this is based on statistics, and somebody else, if they have an answer, they can jump in, but based on the statistics of all of their D&D stats, the sheer toughness of them.
Yeah, they're a tank.
And the fact that D&D does originally consider them a mammal, it's pretty clear they have tough, thick bones.
Yeah.
There's even some descriptions in some of the adventures of owlbear bones, like people finding the bones, and they seem to fit more with the idea of like giant, thick bones rather than.
Okay. So as we talked about earlier on, they start off looking like Muppets from the Dark Crystal, right? Like they're going to go, oh.
Right, yeah. Oh.
So they start off like that, and then they turn into these terrifying creatures that you show me pictures of. From a stats perspective, have they changed to become more terrifying in terms of having to fight them as a PC throughout the course of beginning D&D to now, or do you feel like they've pretty much stayed about the same level range?
This is actually. Does anybody mind if I take this?
No, take it.
I've been talking a lot.
I'm actually curious. I thought
Okay.
they were about the same, but
No, they're not. And it's personally, as a DM, I actually prefer the way that owlbears were handled in older editions, but I understand why they made the changes, and I can explain those. So the old owlbear was very much based on this idea of the grapple. One of their main attacks was they would come up, grapple a player, and then peck at it with their beak. They would lose their claw attack, but the grapple was so powerful that it really kind of made up for that. Modern D&D, the owlbear changed. Now I can pull up its stats real quick on my Monster Manual, but they got rid of the grapple as like a free action. So to go back a little bit, in second edition, if the owlbear hit a player with a roll of 18 or better, it actually auto grappled them. It would grab them and pull them into a hug. There are creatures that do that in D&D 5, but weirdly enough, they didn't choose to make the owlbear one of those creatures. Instead, they just bumped its strength up, so it has a strength +5. Which is high. I mean, if it comes up to grapple you're rolling. Most characters, especially low-level characters that might fight an owlbear, are not going to have the strength to withstand the grapple. The problem is the way grapples work in D&D 5, and that is it takes a full action, which is basically your full turn, to do the grapple. So the owlbear now comes up, grapples you, and spends its entire turn doing that, and doesn't get to start making its attacks until the next turn. Grapple in D&D 5 does carry some benefits. The creature can lay the person prone and just go to town on them. But it doesn't, I don't know, to me it still feels kind of awkward to work in the grapple. The only way it really works is if you have multiple owlbears where one is kind of distracting the other the other players while one of them goes in for the grapple and the kill.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
No, that was it. My only end cap to that would be we'll get to see that next time when we actually fight the owlbear, which will be on the next episode.
Do they have any elemental weaknesses, or are they kind of just, do they have any particular weaknesses, rather?
An owlbear's greatest weakness is nothing elemental. It's its own ferocity. So an owlbear, as Kayvon mentioned earlier, once they start attacking, they don't stop. And you can easily trick an enraged owlbear or lead it on. They also, oddly enough, can't climb trees. They're really bad at it. So if you get up a tree, you can kind of pot shot the owlbear from up there.
Can you run down a hill? How are you supposed to escape from bears? Don't you you run downhill?
Hide under.
I think it's duck, cover, and roll.
Pretend you're dead. Yeah.
Bad advice, guys.
I believe hiding underwater is something that's recommended for these things. Climbing a tree, hiding underwater. They're faster than a human. I think their speed is 40 compared to the standard human.
Yeah,
and
the modern owlbear I think has a speed of 40, which is kind of cool because it means that you can't just get out of range of them. You have to actually get up a tree or do something to get away from it.
Well, you could if you dash, but you just have to keep dashing. You wouldn't be able to ever attack back.
Well, and if it dashed, it would outpace you.
Yeah.
And then one of the favorite tactics of an owlbear is to outpace a fleeing opponent and ready an attack, so that when that opponent comes past it, it gets a free swipe or grapple on it.
So that actually does beg the question, and maybe we answered it and I'm already forgetting, but intelligence-wise, how bright are these things?
Oh, they're not very smart, but they have a fairly solid wisdom, right?
A 3-level intelligence, but a 12 wisdom.
Yeah. So compare that, as a person who's not used to seeing that kind of intelligence score on a monster manual, a 3 intelligence, compare that to other monsters that we might be familiar with. Or other
boy.
Even.
So a 3 intelligence is probably, it's smarter than like a rat. But it's
what's a goblin?
Goblins are actually intelligent. I mean, they're not like,
they're not beasts.
So 3 is solidly is what's a horse?
A horse is like I think a 1. Let me see. I've actually got
3 times as smart as a horse.
So a camel is a 2.
Yeah.
I thought horses horses can count. I've seen that.
Yeah, no, and they can speak. They can talk. They drink beer and. But I get all my information on horses from BoJack Horseman, so.
No.
Smarter than a hawk? A hawk's
like a
intelligence
goat
is
a 2, a hawk is a 2, a hyena is a 2, a lion is a 3.
It's as smart as a lion.
Okay.
Smart as a lion.
So it's cat smart.
It's cat smart.
And you got to think too in
Instinct
D&D
smart.
terms. What is intelligence used for? Intelligence is used for like skill,
tactics,
learning things, how to like language, figuring things out. So an owlbear can't look at something and be like, "I understand this is a trap." But their wisdom is decent. It's a 12. They get a +1 to their scores, which means that they can see and smell and sense really well.
Yeah. And so their olfactory, all that's pretty high.
They get advantage on rolls.
Light, sound, and smell. They have advantages. Yeah.
Which brings me to one of my favorite trivia facts that I discovered about the owlbear. I did not know this going into it. They have a what's the word for it? It's a nictitating membrane. I think I said.
That's the extra eye lead, right?
Nictitating.
Yeah, and it protects an eye from dirt and grime, and most birds have this, so it is another factor in favor of the bird.
That owl face.
The one of the things that's interesting about this is originally, and I don't think it ever got worked into any of the rules, but originally the developers wanted that to make it immune to attacks that would blind it with light.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and they never. I don't think they ever did it, but that was an original concept.
So you couldn't use dazzling.
Yeah, like color spray or okay. like there were some rules in old D&D for like flash bangs. Basically, you could create light in a dark space and blind things, and the owlbear was going to be immune to that.
Yeah.
Kayvon, is there any weird trivia that you found like that?
Weird trivia. I don't know. I feel like I got my
the esoteric out there.
Yeah, the owl pellets.
Owl pellets is a good one.
Yeah. No, as far as trivia, I think we're good. It loves honey. That's actually a fun one.
Really?
Much like Winnie the Pooh.
So that's a very owl thing.
The owlbear or bear thing. I don't know. You can use it's mostly carnivorous, but for honey it'll make an exception.
So you can lure an owlbear with honey.
You can bait it. You can bait an owlbear.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or if you're in a fight, throw some honey down. It might prefer the honey to you. I don't know who carries honey around with them, but if you're going to fight an owlbear, you might want to grab some honey.
Okay, that's actually pretty useful information so far. Okay. Are there any parasites? Are there any sort of creatures or animals that have any sort of
because they'll hunt
lamprey on a shark or whatever?
They will hunt things as small as squirrels and rats.
Okay.
So aside from probably your fleas and ticks and things like that, you're not going to get a lot of symbiosis with an owlbear. They tend to take over their territory.
So is it more hair or more feathers? Because this illustration looks like a weird combination of both.
I think it is more hair.
Yeah.
It is my take, but that one really changes on the artist.
It tends to be illustrated with more hair.
Yeah, see, this one is more,
Wait, what am I looking at here? Are those... these are
they're
babies?
Owlbear
Yeah, those are little babies.
Owlbear babies.
Oh, they're cute! They're like koala bears with owl faces.
No wonder people domesticate these. Why have I been murdering these for so long in D&D?
Every episode I will try to show a baby picture. I'm really gonna try to make everyone feel guilty here. Baby ghouls, baby zombies.
Things.
Baby liches. Baby liches are adorable.
Now we feel bad when we murder them.
And they're clearly vegetarians. Look, he's just eating a berry.
I think we've come to some of our big questions. Is it time to talk about the winged owlbear?
Yeah, hit us with it.
So, Kayvon, you are all about this winged one. Tell me about it.
No, well, the lore is that they exist and that the wizards perhaps decided to conjure them up when they were making versions of the owlbear. But I don't actually have anything more than lore and legend. It sounds like you actually have some sort of detailed knowledge on this.
So all I can say is that there is a statted out version of the winged owlbear that's available in D&D 2nd edition. It looks absolutely terrifying because the one thing that makes an owlbear like not the rulers of the planet is that they can't fly. They aren't used very often. You don't see them in really official adventures or anything like that. People seem to prefer the classic owlbear just without the wings. And I think it has to do, kind of tie it all back together with what we talked about earlier with the mythology. I think if you look at classic mythological creatures, they're not always the smartest combinations. Like, it's not always the most powerful part of the animal plus the most powerful part of another animal. They are kind of these funky imaginings of things. And I think that's what's appealing about the owlbear is that it's not perfect. Because when we look through nature, it's often not perfect. And that makes the owlbear feel more real and less formed, less created by a dungeon master, and more like, no, this is in the world. It has a place in the ecology. It doesn't just fly around and kill everything.
All right. I do have one more question that I think we should address before we go. Is that, are there any named owlbears in the lore?
Famous owlbears.
Yeah. Like a named boss of some sort or a legendary...
A favored pet, perhaps.
Kayvon, you've got one there?
Not if I can make up one, but I definitely I definitely don't have one that I'm aware of.
I can say that I've not come across one.
Same.
And I think, again, that speaks to just kind of their role. They're like this classic... They're one of the few D&D creatures that, weirdly, Wizards of the Coast did not copyright. So they...
Oh, really?
No, they're free use, public use. So they show up everywhere in Pathfinder, in Final Fantasy.
Oh, wow. World of Warcraft
World
has
of
a
Warcraft
version of them,
has a version, yeah.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
they're public domain. Anybody can use an owlbear. And we don't know why that is. We don't know why Gary Gygax chose not to go with them. whether it was a dream of his to have them spread out into the fantasy realm as if he hadn't created them and make them part of the common mythology, or whether it was just an oversight. I don't know that we'll ever know. The closest I can come up with is there's a very famous adventure where you race owlbears, where you actually have to tame them and race them. And it's a very fun adventure for 4th edition.
All right.
Do you feel like you know, Ben, a little bit more today about the mythological owlbear?
I do, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to watching the next few episodes to see what other animals you guys do.
Awesome. So before we go, I figured we'd do a quick rundown. So Ben, would you like to do a promo, who you are, where you're from, what you do for our listeners?
Yeah, my name is Ben Fisher. I murder owlbears, but I used to. I'm reformed now that I know that they pair off and have cute babies. When I'm not doing that, I write comic books, and my most recent one is called The Underfoot and is in stores now, about a world where all humans have disappeared and the animals are trying to figure out why.
Awesome.
Specifically, it focuses on hamsters, and it's awesome.
There's a lot of hamsters in this book.
It's hamsterific.
That's right.
I stole that from Ben. That wasn't mine.
I've set it out into the world like an owlbear. I'm happy for it just to show up at all the time.
Awesome. So, and Jonathan, Kayvon, do you want to do a little promo?
Kayvon, you go first.
Yeah, my name's Kayvon Barami, and you will hear me here again on the Bestiary.
And I'm Jonathan Stark. This is really, I'm dedicated to these projects, so you'll see more from the Bestiary. We're working on a couple other podcast projects. You can already hear me. I try to do generally 2 or 3 times a month. I'll release an adventurous appetizer, which is just me going on for about 10 to 20 minutes about something D&D related. Sometimes it's how to create good characters. Sometimes it's a review of adventures. I just kind of go on whatever I'm feeling that day. And you can already get that on wherever you listen to your podcasts or by going to our website, alignmentmayvary.com.
So my name is Morganite. I do Twitch streaming over on my own personal channel, which you can find in the doobly-doo. And then Jonathan Kayvon and I are working together on a sort of radio play project under the Alignment May Vary banner, that's going to be a kind of home hub. So you'll see lots from us in the future. I believe, so in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be doing the combat against the owlbear, correct?
Yes. So if you'd like to join us again for kind of the follow-up to this conversation, we'll be using a lot of what we talked about here to inform the combat. And we'd love to have some of you join us and watch.
Right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. And Ben and Kayvon and John,
for joining us, Ben.
Thanks for teaching me about owlbears.
Thanks for suggesting them.
Right.
The last thing I'll say is, please, if you please share this. We survive based on views and stuff. So if you know anybody who would be interested in watching our show, share it around.
All right. So we'll see you the next time on the Bestiary with the owlbear combat. Until then, bye.
Found $20 while walking down the street. Picked it up and thought aloud, hey, that's pretty neat. But then my conscience began to fill my